they walk away. But if you look at the value of all global public equities, it's about $100 trillion. And so if you're seeing, let's say that we're raising $100 billion a year of venture capital in these funds, and then you're making a 2.5x average market return, which is not normal, right? Let's assume that's the normal cycle we're in right now. That's $250 billion of liquidity realized in a year out of $100 trillion of global public equities. That's only 0.25% of the disruption of public equities. And think about it. Technology is set up to disrupt all of these old school businesses that are public and mature and scaled. And that's what the $100 trillion represents. So it's actually, kind of looking at it statistically, it's not that unfounded that we're only seeing 0.25% market cap disruption of public equities each year, because those public companies aren't disrupting each other generally. Maybe to some extent they are. They're getting disrupted by new companies that are emerging, new startups. And so I don't think that this is like necessarily the peak. It may kind of be the beginning of a continuing disruption cycle that we're going to see kind of persist for the next decade or two, especially as more of the old school industrial businesses, which make up a bulk of that market cap, start to get disrupted, not just by software, but also by automation, by ESG angle investing, by life sciences and all these other kind of technologies that, and these market interests that are going to disrupt those old industries. I think we could even see an acceleration from here. So, I don't think that this is necessarily peak frenzied, bubbled, low interest rate fueled outcomes. I think this may be kind of part of a longer term trend that is statistically probably not that big a deal.
Sacks, are you concerned about this peak bubbly market, or do you think, like Chamath said, push all your chips in and raise as big a fund as you can? And, if the game is going to be played at these high stakes, you want to be at the table.
Well, I like what Friedberg said. I think it's a super interesting point that this could just be the beginning. Look, we live in an age of accelerating technological progress. So why wouldn't the returns from that accelerating technological progress also be accelerating? We had this thesis 20 years ago when the internet first started that the new economy would replace the old economy. It took a few years longer than people thought, but we are fully there. And the number of new companies being created now is just exploding. A lot of this liquidity that's being generated is being now pumped into the next set of funds, which will go to founders. They'll be able to create more companies. They'll be able to keep more of those companies because there'll be less dilution. And then a lot of this wealth is a lot of the VC money is trickling down into the competition for salaries. So anybody really anywhere in the world who can learn how to write code can now, make a 6-figure plus salary because of remote work. So all the salaries all over the world are equilibrating. So, this is an incredible pathway to prosperity for, certainly the United States, but really the whole world.
For humanity.
It's really positive, assuming it keeps going, assuming it's not just totally liquidity driven. And, I don't know exactly, how all those macro forces will play out, but this seems very positive overall. The other thing it'll lead to, just quickly, is a change in who has political power, because ultimately money is the mother's milk of politics, and the people who are making all these returns will eventually fund politicians. I'm one of them.
Yeah.
But look, I think there's two kinds of, I'd say, prototypes, politically speaking, for people in the technology world. You've kind of got the sort of standard woke progressives who are funding a lot of this crazy stuff like decarceration in cities, whatever. We talked about that before. But I also think there's another prototype that's less loud, and they feel that they kind of keep their views more to themselves, which is, I call them libertarians, who are sort of liberal on social values, but libertarian on economic policy. They don't like government regulations. Certainly if they're in the crypto world, they don't like government regulations. They could see how they create, friction to progress, and they believe in markets, and I think they're going to want to fund politicians who support those types of things. So, I could be very positive politically in that respect.
What's interesting, I just want to build on what you built on what Friedberg said, which is, I think the best point you made was, look on a global basis of the opportunity for an individual, somebody who is, graduating high school, college, they're 18, 19, 20 years old. Because of remote work, anybody can work from anywhere. Technology companies have unlimited resources, and they need a never-ending supply of developers, or even a SaaS salesperson, a marketer, back office, et cetera, and they can work from anywhere on the globe and make a six-figure salary, whatever, 50, 60, 70, 80K for one of these entry-level jobs in sales. And all the information on how to get those jobs is available for free from startups that have put open courseware online or very free courses. Yet we're looking at this massive technological change, and the New York Times' position is that technology is destroying humanity and polarization of wealth is destroying humanity. What we're actually uncovering here is all of this money being invested in these companies is giving an opportunity for people around the world to get high-paying jobs.
Totally. And actually, can I let me mention a really interesting item that was just in Politico today, which was about Al Sharpton was lobbying in Congress against changing the carried interest treatment. So remember, all of us in VC make our compensation in the form of carried interest.
Explain what it is.
Well, it's basically, if a fund is in profits that, the VC will get, the VC's firm will get, say, 25% of the upside after they pay back all their LPs. That's called the carried interest. Because of the way that these partnerships are set up, that is treated as a capital gains as opposed to ordinary income, assuming it meets the holding periods of the underlying assets. So there's a big debate about whether, VCs and private equity people should be paying ordinary income or long-term cap gains on those returns. Al Sharpton was lobbying against changing it because in this Politico article, he was saying that it would impede the efforts of Black entrepreneurs to build lasting wealth if you jacked up the tax rates, because there's a lot of fund managers and, who are Black, who are making a lot of money now, and they don't want to be subject to this change in treatment. So that was super interesting. This tech boom is it's not exclusive. I mean, the tech industry gets this rap as if it's this highly exclusionary place. It's not. I mean, 3 of the people on this pod right now are immigrants. So, the wealth that's being created is not going to traditional centers, it's not going to the heirs of, Northeastern, families or something who've been sending their kids to Harvard and Princeton for generations. It's going to entirely new people who haven't had this kind of wealth before.
By the way,
that's interesting.
Another positive externality of this wealth, all these massive gains that folks who have invested in venture capital have gotten has caused one really interesting positive change. So Amherst, which is a really exclusive liberal arts college in the Northeast, made so much money. Their endowment is so flush with cash, they basically eliminated legacy admittances, which means if your parents got in, you were 70% likely to get into Amherst. An equivalent kid whose parents didn't go to Amherst had a less than 6% admit rate, right? So a huge disparity. Basically said, if you were a legacy kid, that exists. We all know this. It exists at Harvard. It exists at all these Ivy League schools. But Amherst has made so much money through VC investments, as an example. They're like, we've canceled admittances. So there are some really positive things that are happening with all this money that's being made.
Al Sharpton's rationale aside, anyone's going to get wealthier if they're paying less taxes. So I think you're broadly you're going to see a bit of a focus on that point, obviously.
Which is why Friedberg, California was massively in the bonus in terms of budget surplus and cash because of this issue, and they were spending money like drunken sailors.
Yeah, I mean, I just think you're going to hear a lot of positioning for the case. And by the way, I think that building individual wealth creates. This is obviously a philosophical point, but it creates a greater path to prosperity for more people through the spending that they'll underdo in growing the economy than not. So I don't know. I mean, I feel like the Al Sharpton point is a good one to kind of make, but it's a broader one than that.
Well, I think that, in my view, the broader point about the Sharpton thing is that it shows that we talk about this group of rich people, the wealthy, the millionaires and billionaires, as if it's a static class of people. At least this is the progressive attack. It's not. I mean, what Sharpton points to is that this group is constantly changing. There's new people getting rich. So when we talk about the rich, if it's new people getting rich, what we're really talking about is success. And if you really want to ban people getting rich, I mean, you're talking about banning success. Our country can't be successful that way. We're not going to be able to outcompete China if we're preventing success. And by the way, we can't fund all these progressive programs if we are, hamstringing success. So I think this, what we've created here with this highly entrepreneurial free enterprise system that's funded by venture capital, this is the golden goose of the American economy. And the most important thing is that we don't break it.
Sacks, it might just be, we may have underestimated its power, is what we're sort of realizing collectively here today, is that we've always thought that this thing is hitting all-time highs. This might be the beginning, right? Like, it feels like this is getting bigger and, and going at a velocity that is different than even when we came into the industry. If, the amount of exits, the scale of these companies, the Coinbases, the Robinhoods, the Ubers, the Slacks. Right. I mean, these are giant companies making huge international impacts.
I think it's either that or this whole thing is a liquidity-driven bubble. So it's one of the two.
It's both. It's both.
Well, I also think the Sharpton thing is a very interesting point that we can go back to maybe episode 25 or 20 when we started this podcast, which was Trump got massive support from the Black and Hispanic community because of this entrepreneurial freedom, upward mobility pitch the Republicans were making. That's the perfect pitch for the Republicans, not this divisive, shut the border down, but more, hey, we want everybody to support it. And I thought one of the best takes was Michael Che. I just want to just end on this and I'll give it to you, Chamath. Michael Che was on the Breakfast Club when our friend was hosting SNL, and he said, I don't know. I think white people just don't like their billionaires for some reason. It's weird because we love our billionaires. If Oprah or Tyler Perry was coming, we'd be excited about it. And I met Michael Che there. And Michael Che was really excited. He's a fan of Elon's. And it was a really great conversation they had.
So true. It's so true.
Why are we hating people who are changing the world and helping?
Right, because it's not we. It's frankly, it's white woke progressives. They're crazy. They're the crazy ones.
They're bonkers. They're bonkers. To get purple.
I think conservatives and what you call woke progressives are the same. I don't think it's about a political affinity. I think it is about people feeling like they don't have the opportunity that others clearly were able to realize. And it is amplified and magnified by a social media that basically shines a light on the success that people have had in a way that we've never had in history before. And it creates a great deal of feeling like I'm missing out and I'm being left out. And that's what's driving a lot of the discontent on both the left and
100%.
And it's not a political point of view. I think it's a social point of view. And the great progress we've had and the great success we've had as a society over the past couple of decades is now being realized through this media in a way that's kind of driving emotional conditions for people that haven't had the same level of success.
Maybe if they stop tweeting and complaining and just learn some skills, if your skill is complaining on Twitter.
As the only colored person on this pod, what I'll tell you is it's very rare that I meet a colored person that hates a successful other colored person. Just doesn't exist, guys.
Tell us more.
It's just one of these things where, we are all grinding. We all know how hard it is to be on the outside looking in. If any one of us makes it, there's a lot of support.
I mean, we see that in...
I'll just tell you, that's what I felt.
South African Jews don't feel that way.
No, I mean, we see that in the incoming emails and tweets to you, Chamath. You are inspiring people in India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka. We see it constantly. They come up to you at events and they're like, hey, if Chamath can figure this out, I can do it.
I'm about to do this thing in Africa and I'm going there in December. I can't wait. And, we're thinking of just doing a couple of lectures and talks and stuff.
Let's do it.
Lectures and talks. And these places are going to get rammed with people. And it's beautiful to see I just think that minorities don't hate on other people that are successful. It's just not.
You're going to Africa in December?
Yeah.
Why don't we do all in Africa? What are we doing?
Where are you going?
Have any extra
I got some stuff cooking. I got some stuff cooking.
Hey.
I'm getting email constantly by people who are starting startups in Africa. I want to go. I've never been. I really want to go.
You can come with me in early December if you want.
I'm in. I'm 100%. I have nothing to do. I'm
Here's
bored.
the thing that I wanted to talk about.